Hello and welcome to this episode of The Sovereign Shift. I'm your host, Chelsea Eden Dubois. Now, today's episode is with the incomparable Mynoo Maryel. And this isn't someone that you really interview, more someone that you receive. She's walked a very sovereign path from high level global power to deep spiritual presence. She's the founder of the Poem Foundation, the World Dignity Forum, and a devoted guide for those who are reclaiming the miracle of their own being, their own essence. For me, this wasn't just a conversation. It was definitely it was a privilege to be in her space, her frequency, because just speaking with her, the wisdom really it pours forth and you recognize it at a soul level. And there's so much wisdom that comes forth that it was honestly, I mean, it was easy to just ask questions and flow and all that good stuff, but processing it afterwards, I'm like, Chelsea, there's so many different places you could have gone with that. And so anyway, it was just a really wonderful experience for me, very exciting, but also I really hope that you feel this as well. And I'm gonna not take a moment right now to do the usual breathwork practice that I do at the beginning of these transmissions, because if you're here, you've already dropped in. If you're listening to this right now, you've already dropped into that place where you've been called to tap into your most authentic self. That's how strongly I feel about this transmission. And so Mynoo actually took me through a meditation towards the end of the interview or the discussion. And so I really, truly encourage you to take part in it because it is extremely powerful. In fact, this whole conversation was powerful. And I don't want to even go into what we went into because it is multidimensional, for lack of a better word. And so with that, I'll say, take a deep breath and I will see you on the flip side. Welcome to The Sovereign Shift, the podcast for women ready to reclaim their voice, their nervous system, and their power in a world that demands they stay small. I'm Chelsea Eden Dubois, founder of The Sovereign Shift, creator of Woo Breathwork, and your guide on this breath-led journey into sovereignty of self, system, and spirit. Each episode, I sit down with powerful women, thought leaders, everyday revolutionaries, and allied voices to explore the real, raw, and radical path to embodied sovereignty. We talk about stress, burnout, addiction, motherhood, balance, sexuality, leadership, and breath-led spiritual awakening. And yes, we go deep into all things woo, the divine feminine, altered states of consciousness, intuition, ritual, and the parts of womanhood that have been exiled or dismissed as too much by patriarchal systems. Here, truth is medicine, breath is power, and your sovereignty, non-negotiable. Let's begin. Hello, Mynoo.
Hi, hello, Chelsea.
I so appreciate you coming and sharing space with me today. I'd like to start by just asking what kind of intention or frequency you would like to hold or bring into the transmission today.
I'm, see, my mission is to create a flourishing world in which collaborative co-creation of coexistence really is the norm. And expecting and accepting miracles are experienced by one and all. And that's the intention I bring. And I feel that flourishing and sovereignty go hand in glove together. When you are flourishing, there is no lack. There is the spirit of generosity, and there is that spirit of that, we are not alone, and we never were, and we have our individuality, and we can work together. So,
I love that. Thank you so much. Can you can for our listeners that aren't familiar with your work and who you are, why don't you tell me a little bit about your journey to sovereignty and the work that you're doing now?
so I mean, I was born, brought up in India, and India is the best place to train you for the competitive world. Because it has a very young population. 18 to 24 is the average age. So your bosses are not going to retire or have any other issues as such. And yet it is also the seed of wisdom, right? So I was born into a family that was very spiritual, but they were also freedom fighters. So my childhood stories were stories of real people from family. So I grew up with that kind of an environment, and yet was like brainwashed into, you just now have to win in the competitive world. So
Mhm.
that's where I was. And I went on and, lived in Saudi Arabia, lived in the UK for 35 years and, really implemented everything I had learned. But I'd got to a point where I had complete burnout and my body was like, enough. And I have a very dear friend, and she's like my spiritual mentor based out of Massachusetts. And at that point, I would just talk to her once a year and she would tell me what my spirit guides were saying. A little bit of a long story, but just tells you where I came from and where I landed.
Right.
And that is what has defined what sovereignty means for me. So I asked her in this is December 2009, what do my guides have to say? And she just started screaming at me. She just said, you have to stop everything and you have to go away for 3 weeks by yourself. And you have to only focus on who am I and what am I to do next. Your guides wish to communicate with you and your mind is full. This, you just have to stop it. And I just thought she's trying to solve up my problems without even knowing what my circumstances are. I disconnected the phone. But a few days later, I actually became really ill and I was rushed into the hospital. And then I was told that I might need to be there for 3 to 6 months. They didn't know how long it was going to take to cure this infection in my right ankle. And to me, that I felt it was related to what my mentor was saying. So I reached out to her and I said, look, here I am in the hospital. She says, oh, okay, it's your right ankle. Well, you have to move forward and you're not moving forward. The moment you decide to go away, it will cease, and you will be able to go. So my partner and my son were with me and they said that, look, what's the problem? Why don't you just decide to go away? And if the infection ceases, it's a message, you go away. If it doesn't cease, you're in the hospital anyway. So I did that. I decided to go to Bali for 3 weeks, and the infection actually subsided. And they put me on oral antibiotics as opposed to the intravenous ones. And I went to Bali for 3 weeks and decided to stay on for 9 years. And that was my shift. I think that was the first time that I even came close to recognizing my own sovereignty. To me, sovereignty landed when I reclaimed what I call as dignity, started honoring my own worthiness. And from that space, I really would honor everything and everyone's worthiness, as opposed to my own assessment of who I am being driven by external validation. It shifted. And that is where I really connected to the calling of my soul. And that's what I started living and doing. And, so that was my journey to this.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
That's incredible. You said something so poignant in there, which was that dignity kind of was the key for you. Can you talk a
Hmm.
little bit more about that?
Yes. What I saw, see, what occurred with me when I went to Bali is I started doing automatic writing. All of this stuff was new to me. It's not something I had ever experienced before. But I would just feel like, okay, there's been a download, I have to write. And I would just write and I would like read the words of what I'd written. I didn't understand where it was coming from because I wasn't thinking those words. And so therefore there were lots and lots of what I call as downloads. And one of those downloads was about that we are born with three things. We are born with choice. We are born with dignity, and we are born with a very unique mastery. That is our soul's mastery that puts us at the source of our life. Choice is the modus operandi of being human. We are always choosing, even if we choose to make no choice, or even if we say, I had no choice, we are choosing that. And dignity is the honoring of our own worthiness.
Mm.
And only when we honor our own worthiness are we able to honor it in others. And this whole piece is about the climate change, for example. I saw that it is a dignity issue. We don't honor our own worthiness, and everything is so driven by economy that a tree has value once it is chopped. In the forest, it has no value. So forests are chopped. And it's all stemming from this dignity issue. That became, I was someone from a business point of view, I worked with in the top echelons of industry, in boardrooms of Fortune 500 companies and stuff. So, and I was quite regular at the World Economic Forum as well, quite active in all of that. And I realized that actually what is called for is something which is a counterpart and goes hand in hand to the World Economic Forum, which really ought to be the World Dignity Forum. And I embarked on that journey. And that is what actually took me out of Bali,
Mm.
because I thought I had retired in Bali. And then this vision of a World Dignity Forum comes in, where we talk about solutions and really bring forth solutionaries to some of the world's most pressing concerns and some of the most called for innovations. But this time they are to come from a space of dignity, not economy.
Mm.
The economy will follow. I also saw very clearly in those 9 years that I was in Bali that there was a very definite shift occurring even in the economic landscape of the world. If I took what was going on in the world, there are two camps that industries or businesses fell in. It was like the death industry or the sex industry. The death industry being about fear based, and sex industry being about instant gratification. But actually, what the world was emerging into, which I call as the age of brilliance now, is calling for a third industry, which is the relationship industry,
Mm.
which is all about everything in relationship to one another. And that created that vision of a flourishing world for me. But it all came from me understanding that we are born with three things: reclaiming my choice in every matter of my life, whatever might have occurred in the past, how much ever I might have blamed others. The fact that I chose for it to continue in my life was my choice. That released a lot of old baggage, and then owning my own worthiness, and then starting to recognize and acknowledge that in others. And there's a very specific body of work that I do with people where I discover what is their soul's mastery. And I did that for myself, and then I started operating from that moment by moment. I do these immersions. I don't call them retreats, I call them immersions, where I take people into an immersive experience. I used to do them for 9 days in Bali before, but now I do a body of work beforehand. So the immersion doesn't have to be more than 3.5 days. And there people really get at a cellular level what it means to operate from that soul's mastery. And they experience whatever the immersion's topic is, they experience that shift, literally moment by moment. And I experimented with using the same approach even in business, because my background is leadership, and I did the 6 years body of work to uncover the 7 habits of inspired leaders. As I went into my spiritual awakening, I connected to authentic leaders. And then as I'm emerging, I'm really very present to flourishing leaders. And that's what Flow is. This is like my book that came out recently in June, which is Flow, which is Flourishing Leaders of the World. It's like all the secrets that I've uncovered about leadership that's in that book. So I don't know, I'm not sure whether it answers what you asked, but it gives
Oh,
you the land.
my goodness, Mynoo. I don't know where to start. There was so much. wisdom packed into that I don't know where to go to next. There's so much to unpack. Let's start with, first of all, I love the idea of having a parallel forum along with the economic forum. And it does bring a really interesting question because money, capitalism, the systems in which we operate in our modern world do seem to be an antithesis to what human beings actually need, which is a which is a regulated nervous system and a way to
Mm.
connect with each other that's authentic. And I think the ways in which we're used to operating, it seems to run is an obstacle. And so I'm curious to know your thoughts on how the economy has been linked to our spirituality and what the path forward is, especially whether you're a leader, whether you're just an individual trying to navigate your relationship with these systems.
The thing is, when this world was created, it was really all about collaborative co creation of coexistence. There was no need for money, and there wasn't one. The money didn't exist. At some point, it was created. And it was created at that point as a device of command and control, with a very specific intention of causing separation.
Mm.
And the good news is that money was created by humans, and it really is only for humans. Because nothing else on this planet requires money, right? Now, the energy of money, because see, for me, the originating intent of everything is really important. So the originating intent of money was command and control, and that's what it delivered. However, it has become so seeped into the fabric of how we as humans operate here, and there is still quite a lot of requirement for money right now. At some point it'll all change. I totally see that. But right now it's there. And the world itself energetically has transformed. There is a rise in consciousness.
Yeah.
And as I see it, I still operate very much from allowing awakenings to occur. And in one of my recent awakenings, which was around the spring equinox, I saw that we had actually ended a 6,000-year cycle and entered a whole new age that I call as the Age of Brilliance. And in this Age of Brilliance, the energy of money has shifted.
Mm.
And it is like a gift from God given into our hands, whatever God is means to you. It literally is like a gift given into our hands as humans to make this planet a place of pure love and joy. As long as you're engaged in that, there will be flow, and we don't have to apply our mind to limit it. Now, if money is flowing completely abundantly and there is absolutely no lack, what kind of economic systems are we going to be able to create? And to me, what it does is just even operating with that mindset, already lack disappears. Flourishing starts to become something that people start to experience. With flourishing comes generosity.
Yes.
And that gives rise to collaboration and co-creation as opposed to command and competition. So we will see big shifts and changes occurring
Mm.
as we go forward.
And for your thank you for that. I do want to dig into that more as well, but I'm curious for your journey, you've had several awakenings by the sounds of it, and that's been my experience as well. It's layers. It's layers. And early on, there's gifts that are revealed. You mentioned downloads and that kind of thing. How did what was that like for you? Had you experienced downloads and things like that happen to you before your initial awakening?
No, I hadn't, and it was completely alien to me. And I mean, I just didn't know if it hadn't happened to me, I would not even believe anyone else telling me this, but it was happening to me. I was writing this stuff.
Mm.
And initially it was like, oh gosh, am I getting some form of a psychological disorder and stuff? But I wasn't hearing voices, nothing. It felt really natural.
Mm.
So then I sort of calmed into it. Your point about the nervous system is brilliant, by the way. I really, and if you like, I would love to end with a small transmission, just a short 2, 3 minute one, where I link in this dignity, flourishing, and sovereignty.
Yes, please.
That'd be quite beautiful. So the nervous system was also played a very important role, and I literally relaxed into it,
Mm.
you know? And I started a breathing practice. My breathing practice is, and I don't compromise on it, it's been going on now since 2010, all the way until now. It's 13 different types of breaths, and it takes me about an hour and 20 minutes or so to do it every single day. And I'm very, very sure that supported my nervous system.
Mm,
And that support of the nervous system allowed me to relax into what I was experiencing.
mm.
And then I decided, okay, I'm just going to write whatever it is and start implementing because what I'm writing is actually pretty good. So everything I teach now is a function of me having received it as a download and implemented it, and then I share. But yeah, it did take getting my nervous system to really relax into it.
And do you feel that I'm developing a bit of a theory because I do teach breathwork myself. And I'm developing this bit of a theory that the breath, the body, in fact, is a very, very powerful portal to source. Obviously, we've got our heart center and that sort of thing. But do you find that, especially nowadays, we're hearing so much about trauma healing and nervous system regulation? Do you think that is because that you require that tension, that nervous system tension in order to peel back the layers for awakening?
I've stopped becoming attached to, have to, need to type thing.
Yeah.
There are times where that is required. There are other times where you're meant to be completely in sync with the originating intent of the nervous system, which is like it is a hammock. So you really trust into the nervous system that allows you to go deeper.
Mm.
But initially, to get started, there is a bit of that tension that is required to peel off the layers. I do agree with you, but don't get attached to that as the only way. Because then what happens is as you evolve and grow, you don't require that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, because you've already crossed a new threshold, at which point the starting point is of that very relaxed nervous system.
I think
Okay.
the biggest aha moment for me was when I learned that I don't have to suffer. Like I
Yeah.
can choose a different state. And that was a very, very sovereign realization because the programming around struggle and suffering is so, so deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep. And so when you talk about flow and ease and that kind of thing, if you've been inundated with struggle and the op and lack your whole life, it can be very hard
Yeah.
to turn that switch off.
Oh, I agree. I had a dialogue with myself that it'll just make everyone very lazy. It doesn't actually. It actually propels you into realizing you can do whatever it is that you wish to accomplish, and at this now you're motivated, but that is so true that and life is meant to be easy. That's something that I learned. I totally did not believe that in my corporate world. It was like you had to work hard. What's this nonsense?
Yeah.
Or no, sit back and everything will come to you.
Yeah.
It's actually you can work hard and still nothing will come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a funny world where just saying that, like life can be easy and joyful, feels controversial.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, totally.
And so when you started your journey, you mentioned that there were messages that your guides had from you. So what is your relationship like now with your guides and how did you grow to cultivate that for anyone who's also curious about doing the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know that we all have them. There is an unseen world, which and an unseen ecosystem that supports us. The choice of what our intention is going to come from us. So all we have to do is to focus on what is our intention of having this life. The way I developed my relationship with my guides was that I literally would have like a 5-minute counseling session every single day. I would be there with my journal and my pen, and I would say, okay, what am I to know today? I didn't know what to expect. I didn't do any other process. I didn't even know how to meditate at the time.
Mm.
I'd started my breathing practice because that felt like a very action-oriented, logical,
Right.
step-by-step thing,
Hmm.
but this 5 minutes would be, I would just sit there. Initially, on from day three onwards, I started getting a few words.
Mm.
And then I stopped being anxious about what does this mean? What does this mean? I chilled.
Hmm.
And then by the end of the second week, I was actually getting sentences.
Mm.
Then I felt that if I can write it, I must feel this communication somewhere in my body when my guides are communicating with me. Where in my body do I feel it when I'm having this communication from my guides? And I feel it over here, like there's something happening there. And when I've done something really well, I feel wonderful tingling on my upper arms. And if I'm like going down the wrong path, I get like a sharp piercing pain over here. But it took me like weeks,
Yeah.
but it all came from 5 minutes every day is my session with my guides.
Mm.
And it just carried on like that. And for about 2 years, I was doing this. And then 2012 is where I was guided to go into periods of silence. So I
Mm.
must have maybe spoken for 5 weeks in that whole year. The rest of the time was this periods of silence. And in those silences, I really had this very deep connection because each silence period, and it could be anything from 2 days to 15 days, I would get a collection of guides and other ascended masters that would come in, energies that would come in and say that we are going to focus on this topic and we're going to give you our wisdom. All
Mm.
you have to do is to just write
Mm.
and follow your intuition. And that's really what started to happen. By that time, I had developed a degree of trust. So I followed it. And then from that point on, they're there with me all the time. I know that. And I feel it in my body, but I spend that time to understand what those signals meant. And
Trust.
anybody can do it, by the way.
Mhm.
Anybody can do it. I mean, there's a book that I've written. This was my first book called The Bee Book. Okay.
Beautiful.
And then there's the next incarnation of it, which is this one, Behave, which is about be and you have.
I love that.
Now, there are readers who've just read this and implemented what I was implementing. And they've started this amazing connection. Some of them have got their own services that they offer, but it all began with this, just simply engaging with my journey,
Wow.
and then they started connecting. So it's not, I don't believe it's anything that I've gone through is unique to me. It is a unique rendition because of my own experiences, but everybody's capable of having this experience.
Hmm. One thing you said that was really, I think, important was the trust. It's learning to trust not only in your case, your body. I actually find that so interesting to ask the question, like, where do I feel this connection in my body? Um,
Yeah.
because how often do we pay attention to that in our
Yeah.
day-to-day life? And you must be now a really clear channel for
Yeah.
your guides and for wisdom to come through. So who do you connect with on a daily basis? Is it your guides? Is it ascended masters?
Um, it is, I call it like the all-knowing.
Okay.
Um, and it could be anybody, a collection of amazing celestial beings who wish to communicate.
Okay.
So yeah, I have become quite a clear channel. That is true. The pace with which wisdom comes through is quite unnatural for me, but it's only because I've learned to trust and I show up. I do a transmission every Thursday night, Thursday evening, which is at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And right now I'm doing the transmission on the Age of Brilliance. And there are different portals that I'm talking about. And I literally I show up and I allow it to come through. Um, and I don't have to change any words or anything. It just comes through.
Just comes
So
through. Wow. And so let's talk about your books for a minute. So in your books, you teach people how to basically become a channel themselves. Is that right?
not in all the books. I actually don't. I just share my journey. But my journey itself, just because of my analytical left brain, is such that when I write about it, it is the steps that I follow and then some tools that I have started using. So I have the first trilogy of books, which is all about personal transformation. And it began with the B book, which is my own biography and journey into self liberation and miracles. And it has the Flourishing Code. In 2012, I decided that I was going to live this extraordinary life where all aspects of life coexist. But I didn't have any role models about that. I had my mother, who I think came closest, but she was not working. She had given up her career to look after us. And I wanted everything to coexist. So in that year of, I call it my year of silence, I received 121 flourishing codes. And that's what this is. Again, the code and my journey. And then of course I've implemented it with lots of people. So they tend to have stories. And I points of reflection, because I feel that it's better for people to create their own pace, how they wish to learn. And then the third book is Behave, which is the next incarnation of the B book. Now, the new trilogy that I'm doing right now is business. And Flow, Flourishing Leaders of the World, begins with leadership. So from personal transformation, you go into you as a leader and the impact you have. The next book, which is going to be released on the 2nd of September, coming up, is called Unstoppable. And that is aimed at young adults for them to get unstuck, unleashed, and unshakable. So that's, again, it's about your personal leadership. And then the third book in that series is called Unstuck, which is all of my learning in business. It's about the 7 pillars of extraordinary results. And then the next trilogy after that is all about relationships. So
Wow, you've been very busy. Holy smokes. So you really guide people on a full spectrum journey then, from young adulthood to, I mean, ultimately themselves as the leaders that they're meant to be. That's so
yeah,
important, I guess, in this world, especially. We need good leaders, conscious leaders now more than ever.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is my great joy actually, to bring what I've been doing with business leaders into young adults. And I got the opportunity to do that in colleges. So I do that. I have a program called Flow that I do in colleges, and it's super exciting. Unstoppable has taken me into the realm of teens, and I always felt that teenage time from 14 to 19 is, and in fact, even 11 to 16 is such a crucial time. So many decisions and choices we make that form how our life's going to turn out. So I'm very excited about working in that realm now. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, and there are some businesses where I call them founders. I have a founders collective for business founders. Founders have a very different energy. When you have because you're really overcoming a huge inertia to
Mm.
go from an idea and actually founding it, so that it becomes real as a movement or as a business or whatever it might be. And I do love working with that energy and having their visions transform from a commitment to a resolve and then to realize them. It gives me great, because I know what the energy of money is, that it gives me great pleasure to see them make a huge amount of money. Like there was one particular business founder I worked with, and they envisioned an exit, a sale of the business,
Mm.
between 110 to 120 million dollars. And in less than 6 months, they accomplished it at 116
Wow.
million. Now, he had been working with me for many years, like about 4 years since 2020. So he had done a lot of the grounding work to be ready for this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really a beautiful thing, isn't it, when people with an amazing cause and integrity come into wealth and then
Yeah.
they go from receiving to the giving and then the cycle continues.
I mean, I really want to create flourishing founders. Sometimes founders become very close because lack starts to emerge. But actually, when a founder begins, they are in that flourishing space,
Mm.
and at some point, sometimes things shift. So, what if they remained in that flourishing space? And rather than going from breakdown to breakthrough, what if they actually leveraged the breakthroughs that they've had to create more breakthroughs? And I teach them how to do that systematically.
And what do you think is the largest obstacle, or I guess, or the biggest catalyst for founders to kind of fall back into that lack? And I would imagine this is not just particular to founders. I'm human beings, right? We can be riding a high and then it's like we self-sabotage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I talk about, we are born with three things: choice,
Hmm.
dignity, soul's mastery. So for me, what I've seen is that if we are not being in our soul's mastery, we're actually being in what I call as an autopilot saboteur.
Mm.
That is a programming that we have created, but it's a programming that lodges itself in our subconscious. So in the brainstem, that sort of region, right?
Hmm.
Very much affects our nervous system,
Right.
right? And it makes the nervous system actually be anchored in survival. So there's no opportunity to thrive,
Mm.
right? So what I do with people is have them uncover what that is. It's a vibrational, energetic construct, but there are some words that make you understand what that is. So what I do is get them to understand what is that programming that you have lodged, and once they uncover what that is, it comes into their conscious awareness. Now they can choose whether or not they want to act that way. I let them become very aware of it. I then go into another body of work of mine that unveils for them their money mindset, which creates those limiting beliefs and confines. And money is such a strong energy, and it was originated for command and control. If you allow yourself to remain confined by your mindset, it will control you completely. If you actually recognize it is an energy force that is a gift given into my hands as a human to make this planet a place of pure love and joy, it suddenly immediately starts to expand. So I take them through that journey, and then I uncover for them what is their soul's mastery and teach them how they can now tone that particular muscle and operate from there. And that becomes quite an amazing unleashing experience for people.
Oh, I can only imagine because this is the stuff that we're not taught, especially
Yeah.
women. I was just having this
Right.
talk with someone that women just struggle with money, and it's inherited struggle.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much. I often say, I mean, in this age of brilliance, one of the things that happens is you complete on all of your karmic loops. Your karmic loops are loops that might be related to your lineage, but there's also societal, cultural, and this whole piece about there is a whole karmic loop thing that is there, which continues to widen the gender divide. It's not that women are weak and have to be protected and provided for. Well, that is a very unique gift and strength that men have. And women have a very unique gift of being able to figure out how to work with anything in any circumstances you
Yes.
know and that leadership is sometimes required by men, and sometimes women require the leadership of having the space to figure out how we are going to work with this new scenario, and therefore the providing and protection needs to be taken care of. It's a beautiful collaborative co-creation partnership, but there are various karmic loops that stay in our field as women as energy signatures. Fortunately, the age of brilliance allows all of that to be dissolved. However, when they are dissolving, they are surfacing.
That's right.
And women don't necessarily know how to deal with it. So for me, this flow, flourishing leaders of the world, I have a very specific angle of that, very specifically for women, because there are certain issues that are quite distinct for women that men don't even necessarily understand. And that also is true of for men. There are certain pieces that men struggle with, that women won't necessarily understand. And however, when it comes to this leadership part, flourishing leadership is a natural domain for women because
Okay.
our originating intent is flourishing.
Wow.
So we can actually have a head start and literally have quite a quantum leap in claiming our sovereignty.
I love everything about that. Can we dive into the Age of Brilliance a little bit
Mhm.
now? I want you to talk to me more about that because it sounds frankly absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm just thinking what is the best way of doing it. So it's the age of brilliance is, if you just imagine, if we talk about brilliance, brilliance is so personal, right? In this age of brilliance, it is as if you operate from a space of home. And home isn't the home you live in. Home is the human form that you have. It doesn't matter what the shape of the body is or anything, color or anything. It is the human form that you're in. And that brilliance actually is very unique to each one of us. We are born with this very unique brilliance. So the age of brilliance is a time for us to recognize the brilliance that we are. And when you do that, you start shining your light of brilliance on the brilliance of others. It starts to happen. Okay. Now, there are 2 or 3 years where we will be going through, and that's the reason why I'm doing these transmissions of these different portals that are opening up that allow you to really make a fast track what occurs in your life. Like, right, we just completed the opening of the portal of cosmic support in just this last Thursday. And there are other portals of brilliance itself, coherence and synchronicities. So, in this age of brilliance, synchronicities is a norm. You may or may not recognize them depending on how plugged in you are to your brilliance. Okay. I always say to people that are entering this space, let's begin by you just making a list of everything that you respect about yourself. Then, once they've done that, I say, okay, now let's go and make a list of everything that you admire about yourself. And once they've done that, I say, okay, now let's look at everything that you appreciate about yourself. There are nuances of differences. And it is important to realize, but then they realize, and then I end with everything that you truly, madly, deeply love about yourself. Now, when then I get people to read what they've written, it's very surprising how there is a different aspect and facet of themselves they start to see, which they hadn't quite looked at before. So it's a great way to start connecting to your brilliance.
I love that for so many different reasons because even as you're talking, things that I love about myself, respect and all these things, I was like, I don't know if I've ever, I have my own practices too, but it's just not something that we do to do
Yeah,
that inventory.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And what I find for myself, I did it once. And I give it time. Now I've learned. Before I would be in a rush to get to the finish line. Now I'm not. In this age of brilliance, there is no rush because the realization of your intention occurs moment by moment, you know. So I took my time and I don't ever need to do it again. Because at a cellular level, I now own and I know that I am worthy of respect. And I have gained that from myself as a matter of choice. And I've also, I am, there's lots there in me that is worthy of admiration. And I've also owned that. So, like, it's like at a cellular level, I'm owning all of that. So,
Mm.
what you're doing here is, see, we've got 123 trillion cells. Vast majority of these cells are, I mean, as cells die, new cells are born. In my downloads, I've seen that on average, our average age of our cells is about 9 months. The oldest one may be 18 months, but the average is about 9 months, right? So then if new cells are being birthed, then why is trauma being continuing to exist? Why do physical ailments continue to exist if you're getting fresh cells?
Mm-hmm.
It's the energy signature
Mm.
that still remains. So that it as a fog, the energy signature is there, even though the cell may have died. So what we're doing here is, as you write this up, these with this nuanced differences, your energy signatures that do not match that frequency start to automatically dissolve away. And you start to notice a fundamental shift in all of the six cylinders, as I define them, of well-being: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. That's what happens. Age of Brilliance recognizes that time is not linear, it never was. So, therefore, we created it as a linear thing because it allows for command and control. But actually, you intend and it's there. You know that you're going through your processes, and there are so many times where you just imagine it and it's there. Even what you're doing with this podcast, Chelsea, you were born for this, to bring this message out. And you're magnetizing people that are actually enabling even greater amplification of what you're doing. And you're bringing in people at such a high frequency. Our conversation is a very high frequency conversation right now, right? And since you have taken on the nervous system, which is so important in the age of brilliance, holographically, that frequency is vibrating, creating the ripple effect that even as people are listening to this podcast, their nervous system will actually be returning to its originating intent.
Mm.
They'll start feeling they're supported. They'll start feeling that there's much more of an ecosystem that supports them than they even realized.
Mm.
So it's this energy signature piece that requires to be dissolved. And it starts to happen automatically when you operate in this way. And really, what you're doing is reconnecting to your brilliance. And it starts to shine the light on much more than you had even imagined you already had.
What's coming through for me right now is that you've touched on what is likely the foundation or what we're talking about when we say self-love.
Mm,
Like truly, when we can do that inventory and start to change the narrative, change that energy signature, you're actually completely laying a new foundation for your belief
yeah,
system about who you are, even.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So true. So true. I mean, I first heard Abraham Hicks talk about it, that what is a belief? A belief is a thought that you keep thinking, a thought you think a lot. Okay, let's just have a transform our belief systems by thinking the thought of every element that makes us brilliant. And let's think it a lot.
Yeah. And so to connect with one's brilliance, then what would that be your kind of your, if you were prescribing like a spiritual diet, I guess, what would you encourage people to do on a daily basis?
Yeah. So the first thing is for me, it's for everyone, let's get on the same page around spiritual. To me, spiritual actually means a connection to your spirit, and such that it ends duality. So spirituality is returning to that connection to your spirit, which brings an end to duality, right? So that's spirituality for me, right? So for that, once you get that, then you become much more comfortable at a nervous system level to owning and accepting everything that you already have that you can be grateful for. So for as a daily practice, I do have a breathing daily practice, because breath is really the gift that we are given when we are born, and that connects us to the divinity within us. You have your own breathing practice or whatever it is, you choose what your breathing practice is. There is one particular breath If you feel that there is a lot of noise going on in your head and you're not able to relax, then this particular breath really calms you down. And that is to have a ratio of your out breath being longer than your in breath.
That's what I teach. That's amazing that you just said that. Oh.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's one piece. It really gets rid of the fog and the noise, and you already know that, and you do it so beautifully. Now, there is another piece that is an important one, which is we have a left brain and we have a right brain. At a nervous system level, there are many, many nuanced layers of the nervous system. And depending on the kind of life experience that we've had, we sometimes have a fracture, an energetic fracture that separates the left and the right. A lot of us have it. So we are not in a whole brain state. So when we make decisions and choices, we sometimes go back, or sometimes we get confused, or we forget. All that stuff starts to happen, or we take 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. So I love this breath, which came as a download to me, which gets you into a whole brain state. So starting your day with a whole brain state keeps you in that whole brain state, and it'll take something pretty catastrophic for that energetic fracture to return. So when I started this, Chelsea, I used to do 3 sets of 10 each with 5 regular breaths in between. Right now, I don't need to do so much. So I just begin my day with 5 of these, right? And you can begin with 5 and then you can build up if you need to. So basically, it is breathing into the count of 9, holding to the count of 4, and breathing out to the count of 6. So it's quite different than the other breath where your out breath was much longer. That is for a very specific purpose.
Mhm.
This one is for getting into a whole brain state. So the way I do it is I say, okay, breathe in to the count of 9, and I go breathe into the count of 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hold to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out to the count of 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's like the rhythm. So if you can do it 10 times, 5 times regular breaths, another 10, 5 times regular breaths, another 10, that maybe for 28 days you do it like that, you actually start waking up with a whole brain state.
Wow.
Okay. And sometimes, something happens and it just takes you off your center.
Mm.
Just do 3 times or 5 times this 9-4-6 breath, and you're in a whole brain state.
Wow.
Okay. So that's a very simple, easy practice. I love the idea of starting my day as a hunter, and I go on a gratitude hunt,
Oh,
you know?
I love
So
that.
it also energizes and revitalizes the day. And I love just finding new things. I do like to write them down too. So I write them down, and it's just great fun at the end of the week to look at all the stuff that I gathered in my hunt that week.
Mhm.
And that's enough. You don't need to do any more than that. Then, of course, whatever else you want to do in terms of your physical practice. But on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and even social side, this is pretty good.
Mhm.
And the breath and all of that creates that wonderful environment in which your life occurs.
Yeah.
I sometimes do a meditation. I used to do it every single day, but now I don't do my meditation every single day. My breath practice is like my meditation practice, if you like.
Yeah.
But when I do a meditation every single day, and this is for any of your listeners, just by the time you've done these first 2 or 3 practices, you're already very set. Now you go into that meditation and you imagine getting up, leaving your home, and really embodying your entire brilliance, embodying all your gifts and talents, and visualize yourself meeting people, getting on with your day with all of that in you. And then just, coming back home at the end of the day and all of the additional brilliances and gifts and talents that you've amassed. And then I again end it with a 946 breath. So everything is in a whole brain state. So it's a very short, it could be as short as 5 minutes, but it sets you up for how the day is going to turn out.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
I love that. I think I was so excited to hear you talk about my favorite breathing technique that I didn't ask you what the long breath out meant for you.
Yeah. See, I become very intentional when I do that breathing practice to say anything and everything that exists in my field that no longer serves me, I just give it over to the universe to take away,
Mm.
and I give it over to the universe with gratitude and with peace, So I breathe in love, kindness, and compassion, and then have a long breath out, releasing gratitude and peace, as whatever is not serving me anymore leaves my body. That's what it means for me.
Oh, thank you. That breath also came to me as a download. Um, and it was shared with me as I also call it the like a woo breath because it's very, I love science-backed woo. I think we need to reclaim that word
Yes, yes.
because it's very powerful. It's also very deeply engaging of the parasympathetic nervous system, but also I found it really fascinating that it mimics the type of breath we take when we're dying, as we lay
Mm,
dying. And so I also kind of I heard it come through as the death breath. And so for me, it's very much about bringing up that deep breath in, bringing up from the subconscious or what's going on below the surface, and then letting it be released, letting it
mm,
die essentially. For me, each breath is a little death or a little life cycle so that we're reborn so many
mm.
times in the space of a day, in the space of a meditation or breathwork practice as well. So I just, I love that you got that breath too.
Yeah,
Oh,
amazing.
oh.
Mm.
I'm curious, you've spoken quite a bit about miracles, and I would really like to maybe dig a little bit deeper into what miracles are for you, what they represent, and how you work with them.
Sure, yes. Yeah, this is a really important piece. Because when I did my, that journey I went on to uncover what is my soul's mission here, it is for humans and humanity to have expecting and accepting miracles as its norm. And that is what I'm here to cause and make happen. And humanity equals 8 billion, 9 billion people, whatever that is. So the first thing was, what is a miracle? What do I mean by that? So for me, a miracle is where something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. And your heart is beating. That is the song of the heart. That means a miracle is here right now. It's a matter of making that connection. If I was to ask you, what's making your heart sing right now, Chelsea?
Hmm.
What would you say?
I would say this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I would say your laughter. I would say the synchronicities in our downloads,
Mhm.
right? And also, just envisioning the energy frequency and the vibration of this conversation, that is creating a container of both of safety, of nourishing and nurturing and calming effect on the nervous system of people as they comfortably and easily reclaim their sovereignty. Now, in a matter of a few moments, we've come up with so many things, right? Is making a heart sing. So in a minute, each second is made up of so many moments. And we have at least 60 seconds that make up a minute and 60 minutes that make up an hour. And we have 24 hours in a day. In my world of miracles, I know that every moment is a moment of miracles because there is no past, there is no future, there is only what is, and what is making my heart sing. And my job is to have people see that when they get anxious about anything, there is no isness to anxiousness because whatever you're anxious about is either coming from a past or a future. But if you just zoom in with your miracle lens, we're all born with a miracle lens, and you start looking at what is going on right now, my heart is still beating. Even though this piece is causing a lot of grief to me, my heart is still beating. So let's just anchor ourselves in this space. That is, that miracles are my norm. From that space, you can now make a management decision, and you can reclaim your sovereign leadership in addressing the issues that might be causing concerns to you or your loved ones.
Mm.
So really, that's how I define miracles, something that's making your heart sing.
Mm. I love that because it's so relatable and so human at the same time as it feels very, very transcendental as well.
Yeah, it is. I often say to people, you can become a graduate in using the miracle lens by just doing it for one day. Even if you take 20 awake hours, how many moments are in those 20 hours, you know?
Hmm. Do you find that gratitude helps a person to see miracles more as well?
Yeah, I mean, gratitude, it does, definitely. In the context of the nervous system, which gets very stressed by thinking, lots of thoughts. And people often ask me, how do I interrupt that? How do I get over this overthinking that I go into? I can't stop myself. And my guidance there is the moment you find yourself overthinking, start overthinking.
I love that.
Because overthinking and why does it is a nervous system thing that I'm talking about here. When you overthink, thoughts are just generated by the mind. There is no root to it. They're just generated. So they regenerate and regenerate and regenerate. And the more thoughts you have, the more disconnected you become from your body. But when it comes to thanking, you can only thank something that has occurred. And when you go into overthinking, you're really reclaiming your body. You're coming back into your body. You're coming back into your body. You're literally overthinking completely transforms your nervous system because you're back in your body. You're bringing back all of your energy into your body,
Mm.
and you start to realize energetically that how lucky am I that I have so much to be thankful for.
Wow. Yeah, gratitude as a nervous system regulation practice is very
Yeah.
powerful when you think about it in that context. I'm
Yeah.
curious as well about how you work with, you mentioned purpose finding for the
Mm.
individuals that you work with. Can you talk about that a little bit as well? Because I think that that is also very much on the mind of individuals.
Yes. So there was one particular download that I had, which was about the question I had asked was, what is life and what is death? And what is, yeah. So what I got was that life is a state. It's a state in which an organism is breathing. And that state can change in a click of a finger or a blink of an eye, where the organism stops breathing, and that's a state of death. How we choose to live our life is what makes us come alive. So the only purpose of having our life is to come alive.
Hmm.
And how we come alive is a function of our choices, which is a modus operandi that we are born with as a human. So the only purpose to anybody's life is to come alive. So by connecting to what it is that makes you come alive and what it is that makes you come alive in a blink of an eye, that starts to give you a very good hint of what is your purpose. Okay. Now, what is your soul's mastery is a much deeper process.
Hmm.
Your soul's mastery is the mastery with which you're going to be coming alive,
Wow, interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So for me, it is like, don't worry about it. You don't have to have a mission statement to know what your purpose is. Whatever it is that makes you come alive, that's what it is. That is your purpose as a human who has been given the gift of life. Now you can give words to it and follow different processes, but if you don't have that access right now, it doesn't matter. You can still live your life with purpose by choosing that which makes you come alive.
And so is the soul's mastery then just the different levels at which you operate within that, say, joy that you find from whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah, you'll get a hint of that based on moments of inspiration where you were the cause in that matter. Okay, so there's a process that I use. It takes about 2 hours of working with me to uncover it. So, for example, for me, I know that my soul's mastery, which puts me at the source of my life, I call it source mastery, is that I love leaving people truly, madly, deeply in love with themselves. And when I do that, they feel unleashed and unstoppable.
Mm.
That's the mastery that I'm born with. So my soul in all of its life, all of its various experiences has brought that. Now, given that that is my mastery to express in this lifetime, then that's what I'm going to do. So even as you and I are having this conversation, that's I'm operating in my mastery. So it is a beautiful dialogue that we are having, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, I feel, and love as a frequency is an amplifying frequency. It amplifies anything that you apply that love frequency to. So I'm about you being truly, madly, deeply in love with yourself. And you are recognizing so many things that you have already gotten that you're putting into practice. Like even I got them. And wow, there is science to it. And there is also experience added to it, right? So it's being amplified naturally.
Right.
Now you will have your soul's mastery, Chelsea, which we can uncover. I will need to do the first part, get rid of the saboteurs and stuff, get rid of the autopilot saboteur and the money mindset confines, which are so deeply hidden, but they do impact us. Once they are brought to conscious awareness, they automatically start to shrivel. And then we do the soul mastery work. So often when I'm doing my immersions, like I have an immersion coming up in Rome in
Mm.
September. And that is focused on romance, refresh, restore, resurrect. And so everybody coming there, I would have done the whole source mastery work with them. So everybody's already coming there in their mastery. So
Mm.
that means I'm able to really go into this immersion. And in 3.5 days, they have that complete transformation. What used to take me 9 days and what took me 9 years in Bali.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I want to say about that.
And how has this work really helped you also step more into your mastery, or what has it taught you or helped you integrate and evolve?
Yeah, you know what I've learned, which I didn't know when I discovered my soul's mastery, is that there is a journey we go through. To begin with, when you discover it the first time, you start living from that mastery. So it's like, living from source. And as you live from it, consciously choosing to operate that way, then you start living in source. That becomes the way in which you naturally occur. And the more you live in source, you start living as source. You'll start living as that vibration. And the more you live as that vibration of your mastery, you become that. You become living source. You literally are like divinity in this body. Now, once I got that, then I created a whole variety of practices and tools to support me to make those different, achieve those different milestones. So as I did that for myself, then I teach that as well to others so that they also can do it. Humans are quite a unique living being that is populating this planet, and we almost destroyed it. And the planet has reclaimed itself, and we could do so much more in this age of brilliance in terms of making this planet a flourishing one.
And your work with opening portals, is that related as well to the Age of Brilliance?
Yeah, yeah. So, and actually, I talk about the portals. In me talking about them, I can share with you some of the recordings that I have
Mm.
um, of the Age of Brilliance series. Um, so you can listen to it and see, hear what it's like.
I'd love
Um,
that.
yeah, it just happens once every week at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday evening. And I keep it at that time wherever I am. Like the last one I was in Berlin, so it was like 2:30 in the morning for me. Because the sooner these portals open, the more anchored the Age of Brilliance will become.
Okay.
And the easier it will be for me to touch the lives of 8 billion people and more.
Wow. You have quite the mission. Like it's very, very inspiring and it's quite a frequency you hold. That's really all that can be said about it. I invite you now if you'd like to lead the session you discussed at the beginning. I think this would be a wonderful opportunity to segue into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll just highlight three specific points, and then as I do it, if you then go ahead and follow the guided transmission, that would be great. Is that okay?
It'd be my privilege and pleasure.
So my three big messages that I want to communicate before I go into the transmission is that flourishing is the most radical form of sovereignty, because when you flourish, you refuse to shrink. So even if anything comes up that is a shrinking conversation or a shrinking vibe, it literally starts becoming a water off a duck's back. The second point I want to highlight is that uncertainty is not chaos. Where we are in this world, uncertainty is what is certain. Unknown is not the void, it is actually the known. We are, with the whole COVID phenomenon, we are living, breathing, and have had a cellular memory of dealing with situations which are completely uncertain and unknown. And we've come out the other side. So we don't have to continue to hold on to the kind of impact uncertainty and unknown used to have on our nervous system. At a cellular level, on a global scale, there is an understanding that it will still turn out. That's an important thing to remember. And the third thing that I want to highlight is that sovereign leadership begins the moment you reclaim your nervous system from fear and you anchor it in your brilliance. And that's really what we are going to be doing next. So if you get yourself comfortable and just take a deep breath, a slow, deep, sovereign breath. And as you exhale, find yourself arrive right here and right now. Take another deep breath, the slow, deep, sovereign breath. As you exhale, feel yourself step into your presence right here and right now. And allow regular breaths to go on and simply be in this space, giving permission to your cells to receive this transmission. We are living in a time where the world sometimes causes us to shrink our dreams, shrink our voice, shrink our joy to fit systems that are around us. But the truth is this: sovereignty is the art of no longer shrinking. Sovereignty is the courage to flourish, even when the world says not yet. Sovereignty is the audacity to claim your dignity, reconnect to your worthiness, bring forth your brilliance and your presence, not as something to earn, but as something that has always been yours. When we choose to flourish, we reclaim the nervous system from fear. We shift from anxiety to aliveness, from survival to sovereignty. We begin to live from a place where uncertainty is no longer a threat. Unknown is not something to fear, it is something that we already know. And in this knowing, something magnificent happens. Your voice clears, your choices align, your body remembers its power, and you discover that flourishing is not luxury, it is leadership. This is the sovereign shift. Stand tall in your own field of brilliance. Live as a leader of your life by coming alive, not by shrinking, but by expanding into your wholeness. So let's take one more breath together. As you inhale, whisper within yourself, I choose to flourish. As you exhale, you whisper, I choose to be sovereign. This is your birthright. This is your brilliance. And this is the shift that transforms everything. Breathe in to the count of 9. Hold to the count of 4. Breathe out to the count of 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take your hands, put them in front of your heart in a namaste. Press the palms of your hands together, spread out your fingers, rub your palms against each other. Feel that warmth. Take that warmth of your palms, put them over your eyes, blink your eyes in them, and then just dab your face. Hold the back of your neck for a second or two. Go down your shoulders. Just do an energy sweep and blow into your hands. The count of 5, open your eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I don't have words. That was, thank you.
Welcome.
You are so much medicine. So I would imagine that that's the kind of medicine that people experience when they come into your world and work with you as well.
What is interesting is that, when I work with business leaders and they bring their business in, there's so much energetic stuff
Mm.
that is like really devouring the business of what it's capable of. Now that you mentioned that this is medicine, I'm feeling that that is probably what happens as well, which is where there's big shifts take place in their business. That medicine also heals some of this energetic blocks that have been anchored, unbeknown to the founders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure. Is there anything you would like to leave listeners with as we close the transmission today?
I mean, what I would say is you were born brilliant. You were born to flourish, and you were born to be unstoppable. So go forth and amplify.
Mm. Amazing. And how can people reach you?
Yes, I have my social media handles, so you can all. Mynoo Maryel is on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as Instagram, LinkedIn. That's a great way of getting in touch with me. You can also order any of my books online. And Chelsea, I'm about to launch my next book. Um,
Amazing.
I usually have a launch sequence that I run for 5 days, where I allow people to download the books completely free of charge so that lots and lots and lots of people are able to do that. So if you're okay with it, then I would get my office to make sure that you're a part of our launch sequence
I'd love that.
so your listeners can download it. I can also keep you informed about my immersions. So this one is happening here in Rome, the one that's coming up. And then I'm doing one in November specifically for founders. And it is for flourishing founders, women founders in California. So that I can also let you know of, because I feel there is something very special that is going to emerge by working with women
Hmm.
in their own space, in their own container, taking some of my, they're quite hardcore, but very nuanced business practices, as well as all of this other energetic work that I do. So we can keep you informed about that as well, if you're
Definitely.
open.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much again for your time, for your presence, your energy, frequency, and your wisdom. It is so appreciated. And I just know that this will ripple out to those spirits, those souls, those human beings that are in need of this message at this time. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's really great that you're bringing it out in this way.
Mm.
Um, Great service, and there's a lot of acknowledgement from spirit for what you're doing.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. If something stirred within you today, that's not an accident. It's a shift. To go deeper, visit thesovereignshift.ca, where you'll find breathwork audios, resources, mini courses, workshops, and programs to support your reclamation, body, mind, and soul. Like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and toss us a follow on social media if you're so inclined. And remember, your breath is your power. Your truth is your compass. Your sovereignty is the revolution. Until next time, stay sovereign.